Tonight, I want you to imagine this. You're handed a box of evidence that could shatter everything you thought you knew. Would you open it, even if it meant the truth might hurt? Hold on to your answer, because tonight, the story moves forward. The courthouse was different this time. Not just the crowd, though there were more cameras, more protesters, more faces pressed to the glass. Not just the headlines, though they were louder, more urgent, more desperate for something new. It was the feeling in the air, a sense that, for the first time, the story was about to change. It started with a single envelope, hand-delivered to Zellner's office. No return address. Inside, a flash drive, a folded map, and a note. You missed something. Quarry. 47.2191 degrees north, 87.9872 degrees west. A friend. Zellner's team didn't hesitate. They drove out before dawn, headlights cutting through the fog, the map spread across the dashboard. At the coordinates, they found a shallow depression in the gravel, half covered by a sheet of rusted metal. Beneath it, a small, battered toolbox. Inside, a cell phone, scorched but intact. A set of keys, a torn piece of fabric, stained and faded. The phone was old, but the SIM card was still there. They rushed it to a forensic lab. Within hours, the lab called back. The phone had belonged to a man who had worked at the salvage yard. Someone never called to testify, never mentioned in the official narrative. On the SIM card, a series of text messages sent and unsent from the day Teresa disappeared. She's here. Don't come yet. Wait until dark. And one never sent. It's done. The keys matched a storage unit rented under a false name in a nearby town. Inside the unit, police found a box of photographs, some of Teresa, some of other women, all taken from a distance. There was also a notebook filled with dates, times, and cryptic notes. One entry, circled in red, Auto Trader, swap if needed. But the real breakthrough came from the lab. A partial DNA profile recovered from the torn fabric found in the storage unit did not NP match Steven Avery, Brendan Dassey, or Teresa Halbach. Instead, it pointed to an unknown male, someone never entered into the state's database. The news spread fast. Unknown DNA found in Avery evidence. Could this be the real killer? Zellner's team filed an emergency motion to have the state's DNA database searched for a match. The judge, under mounting public pressure, granted the request. For the first time, the case was no longer about what was missing, but about what had just been found. The headlines exploded. Podcasts dropped emergency episodes. Reddit sleuths mapped out every possible suspect, every timeline, every phone call. A local news station ran a special, "The name they're afraid to say. Is the real killer still out there?" Inside the Avery home, the mood was different. Dolores Avery didn't light a candle this time. She opened the window, letting in the cold air, and called her son with trembling hands. Her voice steady, her hope cautious, her words simple. "You're coming home." Brendan Dassey didn't write a letter. He called his mom, his voice cracking with disbelief, asking, "Is it real this time? Is it really over?" Teresa's mother didn't sit with a photograph. She stood in the doorway of her daughter's room, sunlight streaming in, and whispered, "We remember you. We always will." The second woman didn't walk home in fear. She met with a reporter, her story now public, her name finally her own. She said, "I spoke up because someone had to. I hope it matters." But the legal battle was just beginning. Zellner's team filed a motion to introduce the new evidence. The state objected, arguing that the chain of custody was unclear, that the evidence was circumstantial, that it was too little, too late. The judge, for the first time, seemed to hesitate. He scheduled an evidentiary hearing for the following week. The courthouse was packed. Reporters lined the steps, protesters held signs, and the families sat in the front rows, waiting for the next chapter. The second woman, whose affidavit had started this new chapter, was called to testify. She arrived at the courthouse before sunrise, escorted by Zellner's team. She took the stand, her voice steady but quiet. She described the man she had seen at the salvage yard, the man who wasn't Steven, who wasn't Brendan. She described the way he watched her, the way he lingered near the garage, the way he seemed to know she was coming. She described the fear that had followed her for years. The courtroom was silent. The judge listened. The state's attorney cross-examined, trying to shake her story, but she didn't waver. When she stepped down, Zellner nodded to her, a silent thank you. Then, the bombshell. The man whose name had been redacted in every public filing was finally called to the stand. He was older now, his hair grayer, his eyes harder. He denied everything. He said he didn't remember the day, didn't remember the messages, didn't remember the storage unit. But the evidence was there. The phone, the keys, the photographs, the notebook. The jury watched, silent and tense. The judge called for closing arguments. Zellner stood, her voice clear and unwavering. This case has always been about more than one man's guilt or innocence. It's about whether we are willing to look at the evidence, even when it's inconvenient, even when it challenges what we thought we knew. Justice isn't about protecting a verdict. It's about protecting the truth. The state's attorney countered, insisting the new evidence was a distraction, that the original verdict should stand. The judge listened. He asked questions. He took notes. And then he did something no one expected. He announced that he would issue a written decision within the week. The courthouse emptied. Reporters filed their stories. Protesters packed up their signs. The families went home to wait. But the world didn't stop. A podcast host received an anonymous tip. You're looking in the wrong place. The man you want was there all along. A local journalist uncovered a sealed police report from 2005, never entered into evidence, describing a suspicious vehicle seen near the quarry the night Teresa disappeared. A new witness, a former salvage yard employee, came forward, saying he saw the alternate suspect leaving the property in a hurry, his clothes dirty, his face pale. The judge's office was flooded with letters, emails, and phone calls from across the country. A week passed. The world held its breath. As the courthouse lights dim and the world waits for a verdict, the story is no longer just about Steven Avery or Teresa Halbach. It's about every person who's ever wondered if the truth can survive the system built to contain it. Maybe you're watching this because you want answers. Maybe you're here because you know what it's like to be unheard, or to wonder if the truth will ever matter. So tonight, I want to ask you, not just as a viewer, but as someone who's been on this journey with us, if you were the judge, what would you decide? If you could say one thing to Teresa's family, what would it be? And if you had one question for the person whose name is still hidden, what would you ask? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single one. If this story moved you, share it with someone who still believes the truth matters. And if you want to see how this story ends, make sure you're subscribed, because in part 4, the final decision will be revealed. We're not just making videos, we're searching for answers together.